Welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for being here. Right now, we are previewing the Jaguars Week 12 contest against the Ravens. The mayor returns home. That's right, the mayor of Saxonville himself, Calais Campbell, returns to Jacksonville for the first time since being traded away to the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be exciting to see Calais. Obviously, he's up there in age. He's in the twilight of his career, but he's still playing good football for the Ravens, still doing a lot for them right now. And this is a guy who, even though he was only in Jacksonville for 3 seasons, what a 3 seasons it was for the Jaguars. Well, not the entire time, was great for the entirety of the organization, right? When you talk about what Calais Campbell did here. But his entire time here, he was a very good football player. And no season was more impressive for him than that 2017 year, his best year as a pro from a pass rushing standpoint. The Jaguars' only playoff run since 2007. Cannot say enough good things about Calais Campbell. Walter Payton Man of the Year, a guy who came in and embraced Duval, embraced the community, and he's done the same thing everywhere he's been, whether it was Arizona, Baltimore. This is just one of the best humans in the NFL. And it sucks that he's going to be wearing purple and black and gold, but it is what it is. The Jaguars, they rebuilt following the epic collapse that happened under Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone. Shipped off all their star talent. Calais Campbell was one of those guys, and now he's been, thriving in Baltimore for a really stable, high-quality, well-run organization. And they come down to Jacksonville. They're 4-point road favorites over the Jaguars. They are 7-3. The Jaguars are 3-7. Over-under is 43.5. So Vegas thinks this is a fairly low-scoring contest. I tend to agree. The Ravens have won 4 straight games, 5 out of 6. Their only losses this season have been to the Bills. Yeah, they lost to the Bills, the Dolphins, who are 2 of the best teams in the AFC, and the Giants, who at the time of that loss were one of the hottest teams in the NFL. This is a team that has not lost to bad football teams. They've lost to teams that are going to be in the playoffs, teams that are playing good football. And so that's obviously a concern when you talk about the Jaguars being a 3-7 team, talking about trying to take down the Ravens. It's not going to be an easy task. It is Sunday, 1 p.m. at the bank, looking like a pretty damn good chance of rain and wind, about a 60% chance of rain right now at kickoff. Winds about 15 miles per hour. That could be a major factor. We know Trevor Lawrence really struggled in Philly with the weather, with the wind and the rain up there. It shouldn't be that type of day in Jacksonville on Sunday. But that's something to monitor. If it does end up being a wet, rainy, windy day, how does Trevor handle that? We'll see. The Jaguars, they are coming off a bye week. They're feeling fresh. They're looking at this 7-game stretch here as like an entirely new season. They've got 7 games to try to get into the playoffs is how they're looking at it. They're still talking about the playoffs. They're still talking about, this season not being written for the Jaguars. We'll see. Will it work? I don't know. I do like the mindset, though. The coaching staff still has full buy-in despite some of the struggles to win games. You don't see any players kind of going off doing their own thing or starting to tune out the coaches. This is a group that is still very much together, that still very much feels, like I said, that they can make the playoffs. I'm not as confident as they are, but that's the mindset you need to have. If you're a group that is not going to tank and you're going to try to win games down the stretch, you've got to be together and you've got to believe, and they do. We'll see how it works out for them. Looking at some DVOA, the Ravens are 3rd in total team DVOA. So they've been one of the most impressive teams in the NFL this year. They're 5th on defense, 5th on offense, 11th on defense. Passing DVOA offensively is 8th. Rushing is 1st. No surprise there. You talk about Lamar Jackson. You talk about their rushing attack. Doesn't really matter who's in the backfield for the Ravens. They're going to get the job done more often than not. Right now, it's been a lot of Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake and, of course, Lamar Jackson running the ball. Looking at their defense on DVOA, they're 8th in pass defense. They're 14th in rushing. So It's a defense that's doing a good job on both fronts, and I think they're doing an even better job as of late. You talk about Baltimore acquiring Roquan Smith at the trade deadline. He's been helping everything on the defensive side of the ball. He's taken pressure off Patrick Queen. He's kind of taken control of the defense in the middle there at linebacker. You've seen a couple more tweaks as well. They've gotten Kyle Hamilton not really playing deep at all, playing more in the box, playing more at nickel in the slot, and he's been thriving. And that's how you wanted to see him deployed in the NFL. And so they're in a great spot defensively right now. They really are. You look at their depth chart on defense, I mean, it's loaded. You've got Travis Jones, who somehow fell to the third round in this year's draft out of UConn. He should have been a early day 2 pick at worst. Justin Matabuike's had a pretty good season for them. You've got some vets up front, right? Calais Campbell. They brought in Jason Pierre-Paul. They brought in Justin Houston last year. This is a veteran group up front. And they've also got Adafe Owe, Tyus Bowser, Malik Harrison. They've got people making plays for them and their defensive front. And you look at the back end as well. Marcus Peters, one of the best ball hawking corners in the league. Marlon Humphrey, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, regardless of what you're talking about. He's having a resurgent season. Chuck Clark is a really quality safety. They're having to play Geno Stone right now because Marcus Williams is out, but they've just got so much talent on the back end and up front. This is a really good defense, well-coached defense by Will McDonald, he had some experience in the NFL, had some experience with the Ravens. He was coaching with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, came up to the big time to coach with the older Harbaugh brother. And actually, I'm not sure which one is older. Jim or John. I think John is older. But regardless, came up to the pros to coach with John Harbaugh. They replaced Wink Martindale, who ran primarily man coverage and blitzed the crap out of teams. The Ravens will still blitz you. They'll still run some man concepts, but they're leaning a lot more into cover 3, into quarters, and those defenses with Will McDonald at the helm. The one big area of concern when you talk about the Ravens, if you're a Ravens fan, it's the receivers, right? You've had injuries at the receiver position. This is a group that you've been trying to improve over the years. Rashad Bateman, I think, is clearly their best receiver, but he's on injured reserve with a foot injury. So you've got Devin Duvernay, who's been heavily featured. Demarcus Robinson's been heavily featured. He led them in receiving last week. James Prochet, guy at SMU who's got talent but hasn't quite all put it together in the NFL yet. So they struggle with creating separation, with having an effective outside and down the field passing game outside of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. You got Josh Oliver as well, some Nick Boyle. Their tight ends are their best receivers right now. And you look at Demarcus Robinson, he hasn't practiced this week. He has a hip that they're nursing right now. They're not sure how that's going to go. So if you're talking about where do the Ravens struggle, what's going on with them, where can the Jaguars take advantage, it is their receiving game, their passing game. The Ravens have been struggling to pass the ball lately. And I don't put that on Lamar. He does not have the weapons right now. He just doesn't. Bottom line. So it's tough outside of their tight end position. And Mark Andrews is one of the best in the game. Isaiah Likely, really talented young player. We know about Josh Oliver, what he can do. This is a team that should beat the Jaguars, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson is one of the best in the business. Absolutely electric. They're playing well, like I said, in most areas of the game right now. They're running the ball really well. They're able to utilize their tight ends really well. Their run defense is on point. Their pass defense is on point. They get sacks. They force turnovers. They pick passes off. They've got, the best kicker in the game in Justin Tucker. This is a fairly complete team. They do have some injuries, though. Like I mentioned, Ronnie Stanley dealing with an ankle. Did not participate Wednesday, Thursday. Kyle Hamilton, he has a knee injury. He hasn't practiced this week. We mentioned Demarcus Robinson already. John Harbaugh did mention that he believes that when you talk about Kyle Hamilton and Ronnie Stanley, who are two of their most important players, that they're trending in the right direction. He said that earlier in the week. What does that mean? I don't know. I think that means that they're not going to have any long-term injury here with either of those guys, but does that mean they're going to be able to play in Week 12 against the Jaguars? I'm not sure. We'll find out more later today when the final injury update comes out. But it looks like Ronnie Stanley, their starting left tackle, and Kyle Hamilton, who first-round pick this year, one of the most talented players in this class, playing a little box safety, a little nickel for them. Looks like both of those players could miss. Looks like Demarcus Robinson could miss. They've already got a bunch of guys that are critical on the IR. Marcus Williams at safety on IR. Rashad Bateman, IR. Kyle Fuller, IR. Michael Pierce, defensive tackle, IR. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that are starters for this football team that are on injured reserve right now. If you talk about potentially missing Kyle Hamilton and Ronnie Stanley and Demarcus Robinson, talking about potentially missing 7 starters. If you want to look at something to be positive about, if you're a Jaguars fan, that's it right there. The Jaguars have done a good job beating up on some injury-riddled teams throughout this season. Could it happen again against the Ravens on Sunday? We will find out. For the Jaguars, though, they're healthy. Injury report is clean right now. Of course, you've still got Shaquille Griffin on IR, which I think the Jaguars are a better team with Shaq Griffin healthy than they are without, but he wasn't playing a whole lot better than what you've got without him. And then, of course, Kayvon Chason, he's been designated to return from IR, so they'll have 21 days to activate him. But, again, that was just a rotational piece. So the Jaguars are looking healthy. Big question mark here, or interesting development that's going on in Jacksonville following the bye week. Chad Muma and Devin Lloyd, they're going to continue to split reps. Devin Lloyd started the year as the starter, first-round pick. Jaguars traded up for him. Chad Muma's the third-round pick, 70th overall. These guys are going to split reps, and I think they're both going to end up being really good linebackers in the NFL for a long time. But I don't know about splitting reps. I struggle with that. I think both players will struggle to get into rhythm, to get into a flow of the game, to feel comfortable out there if you're going to split reps consistently. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see how it plays out, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on in this one and down the stretch for the Jaguars. All right, so we've been talking. How can the Jaguars make this a competitive contest? How can they win this game? Well, they've been competitive in every game they've played. Their loss to the Chiefs in Kansas City 2 weeks ago was their biggest loss of the season. It was by 10 points. But for a couple missed field goals and a touchdown that got called back on a silly penalty, you're talking about the Jaguars really being in that one. So I think they will be competitive. But looking at Trevor Lawrence, he's been playing really clean football the last couple weeks. He needs to continue to do so, especially in scoring position. He leads the NFL in red zone interceptions. The Ravens have ball hawks. They have playmakers all over the field. The good thing for Trevor is they don't run a heck of a lot of cover 2. Towards the bottom of the league in cover 2. But Trevor's going to have to be sharp in the red zone in scoring position, and he's going to have to do so in potentially nasty weather conditions. You've also got to get Travis Etienne going. The Ravens are tough. They're athletic. They're going to make it difficult for you. But Travis Etienne, he's dynamite. He's magic. You got to have some Travis Etienne magic for the Jaguars offense this week, I think. I would come out and try to go fast and aggressive. I would try to make this a little bit of a track meet. The Ravens, they like to play nasty, close football games. They don't have that passing attack right now with all the injuries they've sustained. Make it a sprint if you can, if you're the Jaguars. If you're Doug Peterson and these Jaguars, try to go, full speed ahead. I'd run tempo. I would try to get them out of their element and really just really put the pressure on them to try to keep up with you. Easier said than done, I'm aware. But the Jaguars offense, with Trevor Lawrence, with the receivers they have, with Travis Etienne and the way the offensive line is generally playing, they should have an opportunity to move the ball. And will they be able to finish? We'll find out. Ravens defense has been really stout since adding Roquan Smith, as I mentioned. But I would try to make it a track meet. The Ravens don't want to do that ever regularly, and they really don't want to do it right now. With Rashad Bateman out, with Demarcus Robinson potentially out. That's not the type of game they're trying to play. But the Jaguars, their defensive front just has to play better. That's on the edge players. That's on the interior. It's on the off-ball linebackers. It's on Mike Caldwell, the defensive staff. They have not played well in recent games. The Ravens do a lot of funky stuff with their rushing attack, a lot of stuff that the Jaguars will not have seen in a game so far this year. Of course, the Jaguars will be able to scout those looks, and they've had extra time to get ready for them. But the Jags have been horrid against teams that have quality rushing attacks with their quarterback. Talk about Jalen Hurts, the force multiplier that he is. And then you get into the game against the New York Giants and Daniel Jones, and the Jaguars just acted like they had never seen Daniel Jones run the ball before in their life. They did not respect it. They didn't treat it properly. They did not execute in those quarterback runs, the read options. I mean, their execution when it comes to you've got your guy who's going to take the quarterback or the running back, and then you have a scraper. The scraper has just not been there. It's been ugly. So they've got to do a better job up front, and the Ravens know that, and they're going to run that stuff, and that stuff has killed the Jaguars so far this year. Are they going to be able to, having had the bye week and seeing these types of attacks a little bit more, are they going to be able to handle it? There's no indication in my mind that suggests that they will be able to handle it. You're going to have to force some turnovers too, obviously. Andre Sisco, he's been getting his hands on the football a lot this year. Maybe you could get a Trayvon Walker or Josh Allen turnover, or somebody else up front. Devin Lloyd's been getting his hands on the ball a ton. Jaguars got to force some turnovers if they're going to win this game, in my opinion. And then again, we talked about the injuries. If Ronnie Stanley or Demarcus Robinson missed this one, Kyle Hamilton, you've already got Marcus Williams, Rashad Bateman, Kyle Fuller, Michael Pierce on IR. I think if you're talking about missing 6 or 7 starters, that does give the Jaguars a much better chance to win this contest. Ultimately, for me, like most of the games the Jaguars have been in 2022 and most of the games they'll be in down the stretch, I think that they can win. They could make the Ravens one-dimensional, potentially, in my opinion, on offense, with their inability to throw the ball down the field, with their inability to threaten your corners. Now, opposite Tyson Campbell, it's been ugly. Whether it was Shaq Griffin, who's on IR, whether it's been Buster Brown or Trey Herndon, Chris Claybrooks, the Jaguars have not been getting the job done at the left cornerback spot. So it's kind of a battle of bad against bad when you're talking about that, potentially, about the Ravens wide receivers versus the Jaguars corners. Of course, Tyson Campbell has been excellent all year, so you don't worry about that. You worry about the opposite side. But if they can make the Ravens one-dimensional, they could win this game. And I think their offense can have a heck of a game against the Ravens defense. It's going to be tough, though. You're going to have to execute at a high level. But there's nothing about the Ravens defense, in my opinion, from a design and a coaching standpoint, X's and O's standpoint, that suggests the Jaguars cannot have a quality performance against the Ravens defense. They're talented. They are well coached. They executed at a high level. They got a lot of talented veterans, but they've got some injuries. And Trevor Lawrence has weapons of his own. And Doug Peterson can call a heck of a game. We'll see how it plays out here. But again, have to execute at a higher level on both sides of the ball. Stop beating yourself with stupid penalties or drops or turnovers in the red zone. You just got to stop beating yourselves. Usually when the Jaguars lose football games, it's more about what they do to themselves than what other teams are doing to them. It's not like they're just outclassed every week. They do it to themselves. That's how it's been going this year. And that's kind of how I expect it to play out this weekend. I've got the Ravens taking down the Jaguars 24-19. Jaguars keep it close. It's a competitive game. But the Ravens, They live for these types of ball games, for these close, grinded out games, right? That's how they win. For the Jaguars to win, I think they need to really put the pedal to the metal on offense and play aggressive attacking style on defense. And obviously, you just can't have the busts. They had so many coverage busts against the Chiefs. And the Ravens are not the Chiefs. We're aware of that, certainly from a passing game standpoint. But we'll see how it plays out. I've got the Ravens winning. Would not be surprised if the Jaguars win. But in order to do so, got to have better play from the left cornerback spot and got to be able to slow down the rushing attack. And of course, Trevor needs to keep it clean in the red zone. That'll do it, though. I think the Jaguars have a great opportunity to learn a lot from a really talented, really well-coached team. I think the Jaguars could learn a lot from the Ravens front office as well. I think they have one of the best front offices in the game today. But we'll see how it plays out on Sunday, 1 p.m., TIAA Bank Field. Hopefully you guys go out and have a good time and enjoy the game. And hopefully the Jaguars can send you home with a W, but we'll see how it is. I'm not expecting a win. But if I had to put odds on this one, I would probably put 60-40 Ravens to Jags. 60% chance the Ravens win, 40% chance the Jags win. Is that too optimistic? I don't know. We'll see. This is Jordan DeLugo for Generation Jaguar, genjag.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a show on here. You can also go check genjag.com, pick up some Duval gear, and become a channel member here on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great Friday, Duval.